On August 21, 1911, the unthinkable happened. Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, one of the world's most admired paintings, vanished from the Louvre Museum in Paris. This audacious theft sent shockwaves through the art world, leaving authorities and historians baffled for years. The disappearance triggered an international investigation, inspired a whirlwind of conspiracy theories, and ultimately played a pivotal role in transforming the Mona Lisa into the most famous painting on the planet. The theft not only exposed vulnerabilities in museum security but also reshaped the way the world perceived and protected art. At the heart of this heist was an Italian handyman with an unusual motive, a museum filled with unguarded treasures, and a city that woke up to the shocking realization that the pride of France had vanished overnight. But how did this seemingly impossible crime unfold, and what drove the man behind it? The answers lie in a fascinating blend of history, intrigue, and human ambition that would leave an indelible mark on the world of art. Before its infamous theft, the Mona Lisa was well regarded in artistic circles but had yet to achieve the global superstardom it enjoys today. Painted by Leonardo da Vinci in the early 16th century, the portrait of Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a wealthy Florentine merchant, was appreciated for its enigmatic smile, delicate use of sfumato shading, and masterful depiction of human expression. However, in the early 20th century, it remained a treasured artwork rather than a worldwide sensation. Leonardo da Vinci worked on the painting between 1503 and 1517, constantly refining the details and experimenting with his signature techniques. Unlike other portraits of the time, which often depicted subjects in rigid and static poses, the Mona Lisa exuded a sense of life and depth, making it a marvel of Renaissance art. The subtle shadows around her eyes and mouth added to the illusion that her expression changed depending on the viewer's perspective, contributing to the mystery surrounding the painting. One of the most revolutionary aspects of the Mona Lisa was Leonardo's use of sfumato, a technique that allowed for the delicate blending of colors and tones without harsh outlines. This method gave the painting a dreamlike quality, making Lisa Gherardini appear almost alive. The level of realism in the painting was unprecedented at the time and demonstrated Leonardo's mastery over light, shadow, and depth perception. This groundbreaking technique, derived from the Italian word meaning smoky, eliminated the rigid contours seen in many contemporary paintings and instead created a seamless transition between colors and shapes. The result was a lifelike softness that gave the portrait a nearly photographic quality centuries before photography existed. Leonardo's extensive studies on human anatomy allowed him to perfect this technique, capturing the subtle nuances of human expression in a way no artist had done before. Another factor contributing to the painting's ethereal nature was Leonardo's use of multiple layers of thin oil glazes. It is believed that he painstakingly applied these glazes over several years, each layer allowing light to penetrate and bounce back in a way that added depth and luminosity to the subject's skin. This painstaking process, though time-consuming, resulted in an unparalleled richness in texture and form. Unlike other paintings of the time, where figures often appeared flat against the background, Lisa Gherardini seemed to emerge naturally from her surroundings, creating an almost tangible presence. Beyond its technical mastery, the Mona Lisa also broke conventions in portraiture. Traditionally, Renaissance portraits depicted subjects with rigid postures, often in profile or full face, focusing on the status and wealth of the sitter. However, Leonardo introduced a revolutionary approach with the Mona Lisa by presenting his subject in a relaxed, three-quarter pose, a composition that later became the standard in portrait painting. This posture, combined with her enigmatic expression, invited viewers to engage with her on a personal level, rather than merely admire her from a detached perspective. The background of the painting further enhanced its mystique. Unlike traditional portraits, where backdrops were often plain or included objects signifying the subject's status, Leonardo placed Lisa Gherardini against an otherworldly, almost surreal landscape. This mysterious setting, with winding rivers, rocky formations, and an aerial perspective, contributed to the sense that she existed in an enigmatic realm beyond time and place. Moreover, scientific studies using infrared scans have revealed fascinating details hidden beneath the surface of the painting. These studies have uncovered earlier iterations of Lisa's expression and position, suggesting that Leonardo continuously modified his work over the years. This discovery supports the theory that he never considered the Mona Lisa truly finished and saw it as an ongoing experiment in perfecting human depiction. All of these elements, sfumato, layered glazing, anatomical precision, and an unconventional approach to portraiture, made the Mona Lisa a groundbreaking masterpiece in its time. Yet, for all its technical brilliance, the painting remained relatively unknown to the broader public until its dramatic theft in 1911 propelled it into the global spotlight, transforming it into an unparalleled cultural icon. The painting's composition also contributed to its uniqueness. Unlike traditional portraits, where the subject was often depicted in a straightforward manner, the Mona Lisa featured an innovative three-quarter pose that enhanced the sense of realism. Her relaxed posture and the detailed background, which showcased an otherworldly landscape, created an ethereal atmosphere that captivated viewers. Another remarkable feature was the level of detail in her facial features. Leonardo meticulously studied human anatomy to understand how light affected different surfaces of the face. This allowed him to create a nuanced expression that appeared to shift depending on the viewer's angle, giving rise to the legendary debate over her enigmatic smile. Beyond the artistic techniques, the Mona Lisa was also shrouded in mystery regarding its subject. While most historians agree that Lisa Gherardini was the sitter, others speculate that the painting may have been a self-portrait of Leonardo in a feminized form, or even an idealized representation of beauty rather than a real person. These theories, though debated, have only added to the painting's intrigue and allure over the centuries. Despite its artistic achievements, the painting did not gain immediate widespread recognition outside art circles. It was highly valued among Renaissance scholars and connoisseurs, but it was not yet a pop culture icon. It would take an event of extraordinary proportions to propel the Mona Lisa from being an admired masterpiece to becoming the most famous painting in the world, an event that would unfold in 1911 with its shocking disappearance. Though it had long been housed in the Louvre Museum since the late 18th century, it was not always the most famous painting in the world. While esteemed by art historians and Renaissance scholars for its technical mastery, it had yet to become the cultural icon it is today. In fact, before 1911, the Mona Lisa often went unnoticed by casual visitors, overshadowed by larger and more dramatic works such as The Wedding at Cana by Veronese or Liberty Leading the People by Delacroix. Unlike these grand and expressive compositions, the Mona Lisa was a relatively small portrait with subdued colors, lacking the immediate visual impact that drew attention. Many visitors to the Louvre at the time were more fascinated by the museum's extensive collection of classical sculptures and historical paintings, treating the Mona Lisa as just another refined Renaissance portrait among many. The painting's fame was primarily confined to the academic and artistic elite. Writers and scholars of the 19th century admired Leonardo's subtle use of sfumato and his revolutionary approach to portraiture, but it had not yet captivated the general public. There were, of course, those who appreciated the mystery of the subject's expression, and the painting was occasionally referenced in art critiques, but it had not yet reached the level of global recognition that it holds today. What truly propelled the Mona Lisa into the limelight was not just its artistic brilliance, but the shocking event that took place on August 21, 1911. The sudden disappearance of this seemingly unremarkable portrait transformed it into an international obsession. The intrigue of the crime, the mystery surrounding its whereabouts, and the dramatic manhunt for the thief all played crucial roles in turning the painting into a household name. From that moment on, the Mona Lisa was no longer just another Renaissance masterpiece. It became an icon, a symbol of artistic genius, and the most famous painting in the world. On that fateful Monday morning, 3 museum workers passed through the Salon Care, where the Mona Lisa was displayed. The room was quiet, bathed in the soft morning light filtering through the windows. The air carried the faint scent of aged wood and oil paint, remnants of centuries of artistic history preserved within the Louvre's walls. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. At 7 a.m., the museum was just beginning its day, and staff members were preparing for their usual routines, sweeping floors, dusting exhibits, and making minor repairs to the frames of various paintings. But by 8:35 a.m., the painting was gone. At first, no one thought much of it. Artworks were frequently removed for photography or maintenance. Louvre staff often moved paintings for restoration work, and the Mona Lisa was no exception. However, as the hours passed, an unsettling realization began to take hold. By mid-morning, a painter who had been working in the gallery asked a security guard where the Mona Lisa was. When no one could account for its location, panic began to set in. The Louvre staff frantically checked with various departments, photography, restoration, and curation, only to find that no one had authorized the removal of the painting. The empty space where the Mona Lisa once hung was a stark reminder of something gone terribly wrong. The museum's curators and guards combed through the area, checking if the painting had been temporarily placed somewhere else, but their search yielded nothing. The realization struck like lightning: the world's most famous smile had vanished. A once ordinary Monday morning had transformed into a historic catastrophe. As whispers of concern turned into frantic discussions, a feeling of dread began to spread through the museum corridors. Louvre employees, from janitors to senior curators, exchanged anxious glances, their voices hushed yet heavy with urgency. Security personnel combed through every room, storage area, and hidden alcove, hoping against hope that the masterpiece had simply been misplaced rather than stolen. Word spread quickly through the museum, and soon, staff members were running down hallways, checking behind partitions, and questioning each other in desperation. Who had last seen the painting? When was it last accounted for? Had anyone noticed anything suspicious? By mid-afternoon, the rising tension gave way to a stark reality. Mona Lisa was truly missing. The museum's director was alerted, and an emergency meeting was called to determine the next steps. The staff debated whether to contact the authorities immediately or conduct a more extensive internal search before raising the alarm. Ultimately, the sheer gravity of the situation left them no choice but to alert the Paris police. Minutes later, officers arrived at the Louvre, their polished boots echoing ominously against the museum's marble floors. They moved with a sense of urgency, scanning the vast halls and corridors where thousands of priceless artworks adorned the walls. The Louvre, a fortress of art history, now stood vulnerable, its security called into question. The lead investigator, Chief Inspector Louis Lapine, a seasoned officer renowned for solving high-profile crimes, took charge of the operation. With a keen eye for details, he instructed his team to secure the scene, ensuring no further evidence was disturbed. Officers began interviewing staff members, from janitors to senior curators, meticulously jotting down notes and sketching possible timelines for the disappearance. Every detail, no matter how small, was scrutinized. As the investigation unfolded, Louvre employees recounted their movements from the early morning hours. Some recalled a figure in a white smock lingering near the gallery entrance, but no one had paid much attention at the time. Others mentioned an unusual silence in the Salon Care just before the discovery of the missing painting. A sense of unease spread among the museum staff as they began to grasp the reality of the situation. The idea that the Mona Lisa, a painting that had survived centuries of wars, revolutions, and royal ownership, had been taken from under their noses was unfathomable. How could such a treasured masterpiece disappear from the heart of one of the most prestigious institutions in the world? Had it been an inside job? Was it an elaborate scheme orchestrated by an international art syndicate? The questions mounted as the Louvre stood in stunned disbelief, grappling with the shocking loss of its most prized possession. By the afternoon, museum officials ordered the Louvre to be cleared of visitors. Word traveled quickly beyond the museum's walls, spreading like wildfire across Paris. At first, the public found it hard to believe. How could the most prestigious museum in the world allow its prized possession to vanish? Within hours, newspaper headlines screamed of the shocking theft, and radio bulletins relayed the astonishing news. People gathered in cafes and public squares, speculating on what could have happened, as disbelief turned into outrage. The scandal rocked Paris, sending ripples of shock across the entire world. Art lovers, historians, and everyday citizens alike demanded answers. The theft of the Mona Lisa was not just a loss for France. It was a cultural catastrophe that ignited international intrigue. Museums around the world scrambled to assess their own security measures, fearing that if a painting as famous as the Mona Lisa could be stolen, no artwork was truly safe. Within a day, the Louvre became the epicenter of a global media frenzy. Reporters from all over Europe and beyond arrived in droves, eager to uncover details of the heist. Police set up barricades around the museum entrance as investigators worked tirelessly inside, determined to solve the mystery. The world was watching, and the pressure to recover the Mona Lisa was immense. By the afternoon, museum officials ordered the Louvre to be cleared of visitors. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire, gripping the city of Paris and soon reaching the farthest corners of the world. Crowds gathered outside the museum, desperate for information, whispering in disbelief. Newspapers rushed to print extra editions with dramatic headlines, and radio stations broadcast live updates, speculating on how such an audacious crime could have occurred. The Louvre, once a sanctuary of art and history, was now a crime scene. Detectives combed the building, searching for clues while museum officials faced an onslaught of questions from the press. The people of France, and soon the world, were outraged. How could the most famous painting in history simply vanish? As theories and rumors swirled, panic set in. Was this an isolated incident, or could other priceless artworks be at risk? The theft of the Mona Lisa had become more than a mere heist. It was a national scandal that would reshape the art world forever. The Louvre was closed for a week while investigators scoured every inch of the museum, meticulously combing through its grand halls and hidden corridors. Detectives dusted for fingerprints, examined door locks, and interrogated every staff member, from janitors to senior curators. The pressure was immense, with the eyes of France, and indeed the world, fixed on their every move. Every worker was subjected to rigorous questioning, their backgrounds scrutinized in the hopes of uncovering any possible involvement or knowledge of the theft. Authorities combed through employment records, searching for any inconsistencies or signs of a hidden connection to the crime. The Louvre, known for housing some of the most valuable art in the world, was supposed to be secure, and yet its most treasured possession had been taken. The possibility of an inside job loomed large, and no one was above suspicion. The authorities even resorted to fingerprinting hundreds of employees, hoping for a match to the evidence they had found. The process was painstaking, requiring hours of comparisons against partial prints found near the crime scene. Employees were called in one by one, forced to recount their movements in excruciating detail, some breaking down under the pressure of the intense questioning. Even the most respected curators and security personnel found themselves under scrutiny. The intensity of the investigation reached unprecedented levels, with suspicions falling on everyone who had access to the museum during the fateful night. Detectives worked around the clock, retracing steps, revisiting testimonies, and analyzing security logs. The question that haunted investigators was simple but troubling. If this was an inside job, who among them had betrayed the Louvre? And if it wasn't, how had an outsider managed to outwit an institution thought to be impenetrable? Then came the first breakthrough. The police found the empty frame of the Mona Lisa abandoned on a back staircase, tucked away as if discarded in haste. This discovery confirmed that the painting had been removed with great care. The thief had taken the time to detach the canvas from its protective frame, rolling it up or placing it between stiff surfaces to avoid damage. Investigators noted that this required precision and knowledge of artwork preservation, leading them to believe the culprit had some expertise in handling paintings. The location of the empty frame also raised new questions. Why had the thief left it there? Was it an attempt to delay pursuit, making investigators believe the painting was still within the museum? Or had there been a last-minute change in the thief's escape plan? Police examined the staircase carefully, looking for any fingerprints, stray fibers, or other potential clues, but their search yielded little evidence beyond the frame itself. Further inquiries into museum protocols revealed that the frame's removal suggested premeditation. The thief had to know that unmounting the painting without the frame would make it easier to smuggle out undetected. This reinforced the theory that the heist had not been an impulsive act but rather a deliberate, well-planned operation that involved meticulous preparation and careful execution. Investigators began reconstructing the crime, piecing together witness accounts and physical evidence. They speculated that the thief must have hidden inside the museum overnight, waiting patiently for the opportune moment to strike. Given the museum's vast layout and intricate security protocols, the idea of remaining undetected for such an extended period seemed daring, yet not impossible. Theories arose about how the culprit might have disguised himself as a staff member, blending in seamlessly with the workers who maintained and protected the priceless collection. The primary challenge for investigators was understanding the precise method of escape. The Louvre's doors were locked overnight, and external exits were under surveillance. Yet, no alarms had been triggered, and no forced entry or exit had been discovered. This suggested the thief either had insider knowledge of weak points in the museum's security, or had acted with assistance from someone within. The museum's labyrinthine architecture, with numerous staircases, maintenance corridors, and hidden nooks, might have provided a temporary hiding place until the time was right. Authorities speculated that the thief had likely studied the museum's operations well in advance, mapping out guard rotations and identifying moments of reduced surveillance. Surveillance reports from the previous week were analyzed, but no suspicious activity had been noted. Could it be that the thief had rehearsed his movements multiple times before executing the heist? The more detectives uncovered, the clearer it became that this was not a crime of opportunity. It was a meticulously calculated heist that had exploited overlooked vulnerabilities in one of the world's most prestigious institutions. But the key question remained: how had the criminal managed to bypass the Louvre's security measures and escape undetected into the streets of Paris? Had he used a secret exit unknown to modern staff? Or had he received unexpected help from someone who never realized they were aiding in one of the greatest art crimes in history? Authorities reconstructed the crime in meticulous detail. The thief had likely hidden inside the museum overnight, concealed in a maintenance closet or an unused storage room, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Given the museum's security routines, slipping past guards unnoticed required patience and precision. As the first signs of morning stirred the Louvre into life, he remained in hiding, biding his time. At approximately 7:30 a.m., when the galleries were still quiet and before the full staff rotation had begun, he seized the Mona Lisa. He swiftly removed it from its protective frame, an act that required both knowledge of artwork preservation and careful execution. Some investigators speculated that he may have used a tool to unfasten the frame discreetly, minimizing noise and avoiding detection. But how did he escape? One theory suggested that he disguised himself as a staff member, donning a white smock similar to those worn by maintenance workers, allowing him to blend in effortlessly. As he navigated the corridors, he encountered an unexpected obstacle, one of the museum's locked doors. A twist of fate played in his favor when a passing museum employee, assuming he was a fellow worker, unwittingly helped by unlocking the door, granting him an unimpeded exit into the streets of Paris. With the Mona Lisa concealed under his clothing or hidden within a makeshift protective covering, the thief walked away undetected, vanishing into the labyrinthine streets of the French capital. The simplicity of the escape plan, executed with remarkable audacity, left authorities stunned and the world in disbelief. Unbeknownst to him, a museum employee played a crucial role in facilitating the thief's escape. A man in a white smock, the standard attire for museum workers, was observed tampering with the door, appearing to struggle with its mechanism. Assuming he was a fellow staff member simply dealing with a routine issue, a passing employee stepped in to assist, unknowingly granting the intruder unrestricted access to the outside world. The thief seized this opportunity, calmly walking out of the Louvre with the Mona Lisa hidden under his clothing, disappearing into the bustling streets of Paris before anyone realized the magnitude of what had just occurred. The French police faced immense pressure to recover the painting. With the public demanding swift justice, investigators turned their attention to the Parisian art scene, suspecting that avant-garde artists who challenged traditional norms might have played a role in the audacious theft. In their desperation, they arrested poet Guillaume Apollinaire, a vocal critic of institutional art, who had once declared that museums should be burned to liberate art from its confines. His radical views made him an easy scapegoat, despite the lack of direct evidence linking him to the crime. Apollinaire's arrest soon led to the questioning of his friend Pablo Picasso, an up-and-coming Spanish artist whose work was considered revolutionary at the time. Picasso had previously purchased stolen Iberian sculptures from a shady dealer, which deepened the authorities' suspicions. The connection stemmed from an earlier incident where their acquaintance, Jerry Pirette, had been caught with stolen Louvre artifacts, leading police to believe that Apollinaire and Picasso might have been involved in the Mona Lisa heist. During their interrogations, both men vehemently denied any involvement. Apollinaire, in particular, was thrown into a state of panic, fearing deportation. Picasso, normally confident and charismatic, reportedly became nervous under pressure, momentarily considering whether he should implicate his friend to save himself. In the end, the evidence was weak, and after days of questioning, the authorities had no choice but to release them. Their reputations, however, were momentarily tarnished by the scandal, adding another dramatic twist to an already sensational case. With no solid leads, the case grew cold. Investigators exhausted every avenue, following countless dead ends and unreliable tips. Detectives scoured underground art markets, questioned black market dealers, and even contacted known forgers in hopes of uncovering any trace of the missing masterpiece. The lack of any real progress weighed heavily on the authorities, as public frustration and media speculation intensified. France began to fear that the beloved painting was lost forever. Some feared it had been smuggled out of the country, while others worried it had been destroyed to cover the thief's tracks. Rumors swirled about secretive collectors who might have commissioned the heist, eager to possess the Mona Lisa in private. As time passed, the hope of ever recovering the painting dwindled, leaving an unsettling void in the Louvre's grand collection. 2 years later, in November 1913, an Italian art dealer named Alfredo Geri received an enigmatic letter from a man calling himself Leonardo. The letter, filled with grandiose rhetoric, claimed that the writer had possession of the Mona Lisa and sought to restore it to its homeland, believing it had been unjustly taken from Italy centuries earlier. The message was written in a passionate tone, portraying the sender not as a criminal but as a patriot on a mission of historical justice. Despite the dramatic nature of the claim, Geri was both skeptical and intrigued. Could this be the break that would solve one of the greatest art mysteries of the century? Skeptical but intrigued, Geri and a museum director from Florence arranged to meet the man in Milan. When they arrived at his hotel, they were met by a nervous yet composed individual who led them into his modest room. There, tucked away inside a wooden trunk beneath a pile of white linen and personal belongings, lay the real Mona Lisa, wrapped carefully in cloth. The moment the trunk was opened, Jerry and the director were struck by the sight of the world's most famous painting, miraculously intact despite its long absence. The moment was both surreal and overwhelming, as they realized they were standing in the presence of a masterpiece that had been missing for over 2 years. The man behind the crime was Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian handyman who had worked at the Louvre and had intimate knowledge of its security lapses. He harbored a deep-seated belief that Napoleon had wrongfully taken the Mona Lisa from Italy during France's occupation, despite the fact that the painting had been acquired legally by King Francis I in the 16th century. Fueled by a fervent sense of nationalism, Peruggia saw himself not as a thief but as a liberator, determined to return what he believed to be Italy's lost treasure to its rightful homeland. His misguided patriotism ultimately led him to commit one of the most infamous art heists in history. Peruggia was swiftly arrested. During his trial, he passionately defended his actions, arguing that he had no financial motives and was merely fulfilling a patriotic duty to Italy. His courtroom demeanor was that of a man convinced of his righteousness, often emphasizing his belief that the painting had been wrongfully taken by the French. Despite the serious nature of the crime, the judge and jury showed leniency, acknowledging his misguided but non-violent intentions. As a result, he received a relatively light sentence, only 1 year and 15 days in prison, which was later reduced to 7 months. His punishment reflected the court's perception of him as a deluded patriot rather than a dangerous criminal, a sentiment that would later contribute to the ongoing mythos surrounding the heist. Though the Mona Lisa was returned to the Louvre in 1914, the impact of its theft endured far beyond its recovery. The story of the daring heist and the international manhunt that followed catapulted the painting from a revered Renaissance masterpiece to a global phenomenon. The stolen artwork became the subject of extensive media coverage, folklore, and even conspiracy theories, fueling public fascination. What was once an admired work among scholars and art enthusiasts had now entered mainstream consciousness, securing its place not just in art history but in popular culture as well. Today, the Mona Lisa is arguably the most famous painting in the world, attracting millions of visitors each year who queue for hours just to glimpse its enigmatic smile. Its unparalleled status in the art world is not solely due to Leonardo da Vinci's unparalleled genius but also the dramatic and scandalous theft that catapulted it to international superstardom. The story of its disappearance, the frantic search, and its eventual recovery transformed the Mona Lisa from a Renaissance masterpiece into a cultural icon, reinforcing its mystique and immortalizing it in the public imagination. The case also served as a wake-up call for museums worldwide, prompting institutions to reevaluate their security protocols, implement advanced surveillance technologies, and establish stricter access controls for valuable artworks. It underscored the vulnerabilities of even the most prestigious museums, and led to significant improvements in the way cultural treasures are protected today. Had Peruggia never stolen the Mona Lisa, it might have remained a treasured artwork rather than the universally recognized masterpiece it is today. While its artistic merit is undeniable, the dramatic saga of its theft, complete with intrigue, a 2-year disappearance, and a sensational recovery, transformed it into a cultural phenomenon that transcended the art world and cemented its place in the collective imagination of people across the globe. More than a century later, the Mona Lisa continues to intrigue art lovers and history buffs alike, not just for its mysterious smile, but for the thrilling saga of its disappearance and recovery. The Heist elevated the painting beyond its artistic significance, embedding it into global folklore. Today, its fame is as much about its enigmatic expression as it is about the audacious crime that briefly stole it away from the world's gaze, only to return as the most celebrated and enigmatic masterpiece in history. The story of the Mona Lisa heist is a testament to the power of art and the extraordinary impact a single event can have on its legacy. From a carefully orchestrated theft to a worldwide obsession, this masterpiece continues to captivate audiences across generations. It serves as a reminder of how history, crime, and mystery can intertwine to create an enduring legend. If you enjoyed this story and want to expand your English vocabulary while learning fascinating historical events, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us bring more engaging stories to help you master English in an exciting way. Stay tuned for more amazing content.